What's new, Scooby-Doo? We're coming after you. We gotta solve that mystery. Have you ever heard of the series Scooby-Doo, Powderpuff Girls, or Courage the Cowardly Dog, or even modern day shows such as Adventure Time, Regular Show, or Steven Universe? All these share the same network known as Cartoon Network. For those of you who may have not seen or heard of Cartoon Network, it has played a major role in many people's lives and childhoods. You probably had it mentioned to you at one point in your life. Dating back to when Cartoon Network was established by Betty Cohan on October 10th, 1992. After being announced from Turner's Broadcasting System, otherwise known as Time Warner or Warner Brothers Studios. So furthermore, today I would like to introduce to you a bit of background regarding Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network originated from Turner's Broadcasting System by Ted Turner, the founder. It began in 1986 when Ted Turner began to buy out other programs broadcasting cartoons, such as MGM, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, which brought us the famous and well-known Looney Tunes, and Hanna-Barbera, which brought us one of their hit series, Tom and Jerry. This show is still aired today in various channels. Cartoon Network was not only its own network, but it was featured on CNN and TNT, having a programming block called Cartoon Network on TNT. Although Cartoon Network wasn't the first program to show cartoons, it was the first 24-hour channel to broadcast cartoons only. Cartoon Network has been around since 1992, becoming one of the most viewed networks on TV, and by children, teenagers, and even adults. By 1994, Cartoon Network had become the 5th most popular TV channel in the United States, coming off to a slow start. Beginning to move forward and increasing their program in 1997, they launched a new action block entitled Toonami, being hosted by an animated robot known as T.O.M., Tom. There would broadcast shows known as Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, and Gundam, and there's more to go on. When Cartoon Network hit the 2000s, they gave birth to a new channel that would be known as Boomerang, airing cartoons known as from the 80s and classics. By 2001, Betty Cohan was let go due to a disagreement and replaced by Jim Samples. Late 2001, Cartoon Network gave birth to what was to be a Sunday night only program block that is known today as Adult Swim, airing shows such as Aqua Teen Hunger Force, R.V. Birdman, Attorney at Law, or nowadays Robot Chicken, Family Guy, Boondocks, and various animated series. As you've heard, Cartoon Network has grown throughout the years and has produced mass sister channels like Boomerang, Adult Swim, TNT and Cartoon Network, and Toonami. Coming into 2010, Cartoon Network increased the popularity by tenfold. This channel began to take another role, adding reality TV shows and programs and game shows, such as Destroy, Build, Destroy, Hole in the Wall, and Dude, What Would Happen. These series were then removed immediately and completely at the end of 2012. Why, do you ask? The word cartoon in Cartoon Network was having its name removed due to these reality shows. Although these shows weren't bad, they were more suitable for another channel, such as Disney or Disney XD. But they were causing cancellations and discontinuations of animated series broadcasted throughout Cartoon Network. March 18, 2012, Cartoon Network began to support an anti-bullying and a major campaign in this. They released their first documentary, Speak Up, for this campaign, featuring our special guest, our President, Barack Obama. Moving on, the marketing of Cartoon Network also played a major role in their company. Cartoon Network relied heavily on their merchandise. It was action shows and comics like Ben 10, Pokemon, Young Justice, Thundercats, and there's a lot more than that. These products were sometimes, and not all the times, strategized. Cartoon Network was more focused on creating cartoons than causing and mass producing toys for children. Some shows were created after the production and release of their toys. Two main shows, for example, were Transformers and Lego Ninjago. They were cartoons that they would use to their advantage. Cartoon Network would create the toys first to receive more viewers than when the show would come out, bringing in thousands and millions of dollars. Because this action, it led to the discontinuation and cancellation of these shows. Now, at one point, Cartoon Network was criticized for their producing of shows nowadays, such as Uncle Grandpa, Clarence, the new Scooby-Doo series, and a list of shows that can go on. They were criticized by followers stating, sourcing YouTube channels, 10 shows that Cartoon Network should get rid of. Comments below, many of them would say, Cartoon Network is running out of ideas. And these shows don't make sense anymore. And what are they putting the money into? If viewers would be more friendly and get along, and keep their personal opinions away from Cartoon Network, then they would enjoy the imagination and creation of shows. In conclusion, today I introduce you to a series of background information on the Cartoon Network program. As you can tell, I introduced you to about when it was established, to when Cartoon Network was established, its sister channels, the cancellation and discontinuations of shows that we love, and a tad bit of corruption on Cartoon Network. And, well, that's all, folks.
Thank you. All right, Jocelyn, what did you think?
I felt like you kept like pausing. If you didn't have the note cards, then you'd be like lost. I think you didn't memorize more. Your topic was the same. You seemed unsure when you were reading a source. When you were sourcing it, you kind of like made yourself get lost. I think when you talk about like cartoons, also specifically, I think you need to be more like hyper and like your voice was like really low. But I think your points and stuff were good. I think they explained where Cartoon Network came from.
Okay. Well, I'm going to agree with you on a couple of things, and then let me add a few things to your comment also. I do think that you need to kind of change your energy level when you're delivering the speech. You're talking about cartoons, and it ought to be a little bit fun. From the very beginning, for instance, here's an easy way to do this. We're not super emphasizing delivery on this point, but I think that's one of the main reasons that your speech doesn't succeed the way it could have, is that you're kind of indifferent. Right at the very end, I thought, with that use of the Porky Pig quote that we made fun of as an exit line, which worked. You need to do more of that kind of stuff at the beginning of the speech. I think your Scooby-Doo quote from the song would have been better if you'd sung it. I think that you need to talk about it from a personal perspective a little bit also. Why should we be paying attention to this? And don't forget your audience here. Most of you have probably seen those kinds of shows. Have you ever heard of? My guess is everybody not only has heard of Scooby-Doo here, they've seen it, they're sick of it, they hate Scrappy-Doo, and they're ready to move on with their lives. But the truth of the matter is that there's always a new generation ready to learn the next thing, and that's what you want. That's why you want to talk about the Cartoon Network. You need to be a little bit more forceful about what you're going to say about the network. I could see what your goal is, but it's very broad. And it doesn't need to be. It seems to me like basically what you're doing is you're reviewing for us the history of the Cartoon Network and how it originated, how it's grown, and how it's changed over the years. That's not that complicated. You should be able to say that without having to look at your notes and think very hard about that. Tell us what it is that you want to talk about. Always remember that your purpose is to kind of connect with the audience, and it's you speaking here. It's not just the data or the information that you find. That's supposed to help you talk about the subject, but you're the one that we want to listen to, and I think you need to get a little bit more invested in the presentation here. All right. Early on, you had data on the history of the Cartoon Network, and I thought that was fine, although you do want to get a couple of things clear. Looney Tunes may have been owned by MGM at one point, but it says right there, WB, that's Warner Brothers. So Looney Tunes is Warner Brothers. Tom and Jerry, by the way, is MGM. Not to put too fine a point on it, but Jiminy Crickets, if you can't get something like that right at the beginning, it's going to hurt your credibility. But and the idea that what happened is that Turner acquired huge libraries when he bought studios. And he had those libraries of material, and he wanted to exploit them and utilize them. And one of the ways that they did that was, of course, he had a television station, and they had that block of time, and some creative genius, the one that you mentioned probably, is responsible for helping to say, why don't we have a separate channel for this sort of thing? And boom, Cartoon Network came along, and then you describe a little bit about what's going on there. And I think you do get some nice historical information into the presentation. But again, there are some things in there that I have no idea what it is you're talking about. It's so vague and unclear, and you mentioned a whole bunch of game shows and such, and I'm going, okay, so I don't know what any of them were. You mentioned Toonami, whatever is it. Yeah, I think the theme of that is that it's really about anime and gaming-based cartoons that are going on in there, and that's why it's organized that way. That's kind of my assumption about that, but I'm having to make that assumption as opposed to your having explained it to me. That seems to be kind of intuitive there. I like the idea, and then you mentioned the other, break-off kinds of things, that they had separate blocks of information and even a separate channel. Well, why did they do those sorts of things? Does it so it makes it more available to people at the key times of the day, so that the boomers who want to watch their old cartoons, Hanna-Barbera stuff or the Looney Tunes stuff, can still watch it, and they don't have to be subjected to all of the Toonami cartoons that are going on? Or is it because they just didn't have time to put everything on the one channel, and so they had to break it up a little bit? I think your explanations need to be a little bit more involved. The visuals are okay, but they don't do much more than kind of remind us of what the subject is. And I think you could organize them a little bit more so that they, for instance, structure the company, compare the two channels. You could even give us information, a timeline about what programs became available and started on the Cartoon Network. You could talk about the original programming, I think, a little bit more, the newer stuff that fits in but is not, traditional cartoon stuff like Robot Chicken, and you mentioned a couple of other programs like that. It just felt like some things got dropped in there without an explanation as to why they were in there. And you just need more practice. I think you will be able to watch your video and see. I need to try this, go through it a few more times so I know exactly what it is I'm trying to say. All right, thank you.